Hello, Slicey Dicers. This is Brian with another knife review for you. Today we have the Reate Valhalla. This is a new model for 2018 from Reate, very high-end Chinese manufacturer. Always really wanted to spend a lot of time with one, and the one I got to spend time with, and that I'm going to be spending a lot more time with, is one that kind of exemplifies everything I don't like in a knife. It's big, has a Persian blade. I'm not a fan of Persians usually. It's kind of flashy looking. It's got some weird cutouts in there just for the hell of it. A lot of stuff that I normally wouldn't like. But I love this thing. I have to say, I was not expecting to like it. Went to my friend Wes's house, brought a bunch of my knives. He brought out a bunch of his. We do this every, month or so. Started playing with stuff. I picked it up, put it in my hand. Something about it just spoke to me. I've always liked Reates, but the only other one I spent any time with at all was a Reate Hills, which is one of their cheaper ones, and it was cool, but I didn't get what all the buzz was about. But I picked this up and put it in my hand, and I just was like, wow, this is really nice. And the more I started looking at details and ignoring what he was talking about, I really started to kind of fall for it. Kept flicking it, really liked it. Wound up trading for it. This is actually mine. Just regular viewers of this channel will be surprised that I actually got a knife this big and crazy, but I do really, really like it. You gotta have one big and crazy one, guys, right? Yeah, this is kind of, they had one called the Valkyrie, which is gone, and a lot of people are saying this is kind of like a budget sort of Valkyrie. I had never touched a Valkyrie, so I'll just take their word for it. I don't know if that's true or not. I've only ever seen like even a couple pictures of them. I admit I didn't go back and look at it before I did this review, but very cool knife nonetheless. Great Reate quality. We'll get into it more later. Let's talk about the specs of this big bruiser. We have an overall length of 8.625 inches, blade length of about 3.9 inches. It's a big one. You have a blade thickness of 0.16 inches. Thickness behind the edge is fairly thick, I will say. I got measured at about 29 thousandths. It's not horrid by any means, but this is not designed to be a pure giant, pure slicing machine. It's fairly slicey, but not too much. And you have a handle thickness of 0.52 inches and a weight of 6.5 ounces dead on my scale. So pretty heavy. Not crazy heavy, but it's not light, that's for sure. This is the hollowed version, they call it. You have the hollowed means it has this little window in here, which I think looks kind of cool. But it also comes in a plain handle version, and that plain handle version comes with one other slight change. The plain handle version has a flame anodized backspacer and pocket clip, if that's your thing. I got this in a trade, and so this is the one I have. And honestly, this is probably the one I would have. The flame anodized does look cool, but that's a bit flashy and a bit much for me, so I think I probably would have gone with this even if I would have ordered one from a website or from the factory or whatever. But let's do some size comparisons before we get too much farther on. Let's compare it against some other big knives I have here. We have the Ontario Rat Model 1. You can see it's not dramatically longer than a Rat Model 1. It's just very much beefier than that. The only knife I have, folding knife I have in my collection that I can say is bigger would be the Steel Wheel Recon. This isn't the XL, the regular one, so the Recon's a little bit bigger. The little snaggletooth mod on there. I'll be doing a review of that sometime. I've actually already recorded it, just haven't put it up yet. Very cool. And we'll compare it against some standards here. Let's just grab the Spyderco Manix 2. You can see it kind of even dwarfs a Manix 2, which is pretty large when folded. And your Spyderco Paramilitary 2. Quite a bit bigger than a PM2, that is for sure. And last but not least, we will do the, well, I have it here. So let's just do this. Your ZT0095. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about this thing. Aesthetics, like I said, it's kind of crazy looking. Not normally my thing. In pictures, I was not remotely interested in this. In person, I do kind of like it. It is crazy looking, but it does look very quality. It just looks very detailed, and it's appealing to me. And the Persian blades do look cool. There's no denial about that. They look cool. It's just a Persian blade is something that you don't like taking out in front of a lot of people. Persian blades look very scary to non-knife people, so that's something to keep in mind. But this is a Faisal Yaman design. He definitely put a lot of work into it. It's a lot of, like I said, it's a lot of things I wouldn't like design-wise that come together into something that I actually really do. It was a pleasant surprise when I got this in my hand to see how much I liked it. Quality-wise, it's a Reate. I mean, the only other Reate I handled was a Hills, and it was nice quality, but I didn't quite get the whole raving about how well made and how great Reates are. I get it with this. This is a very, very, very well made knife. Tolerances are awesome. Everything that should be flush is perfectly flush. Everything that should be jimped is jimped, but not in a way that's over the top crazy. Everything that should be chamfered is chamfered. It's just very, very, very well done. And it comes in a really cool case with a little Reate patch and stuff. I foolishly did not bring it out here, but it's a really nice knife. You get a nice presentation. You get extra hardware with it. You get a little bag for it. In addition to the zipper pouch, it's pretty amazing all the stuff you get with it, I have to say. They really knock it out of the park, and it's not terribly expensive for a Reate. $280 for this version with the hollowed, $270 for the plain handle one. That's not bad for a Reate. It really isn't. It really isn't at all. And this blade, as I said, it's not a slicing machine, but it's pretty good. It's a beautiful blade, that's for sure. And it doesn't slice poorly. I'm not trying to make it sound like it's a poor slicer. It's just not the same as, you know, like it doesn't slice quite as well as, well, what's one here, like the Manix 2 or the like Wii Rectifier, which is a slicing machine. It works very well. It's a functional cutting blade. It hacks through cardboard perfectly fine. It's just not the laser that some other ones are. But the blade shape I do actually kind of like. Despite having this big Persian-ness to it, it does have a really good useful flat to it. It's got belly for days, so that's good. I like the brushing on it. It is RWL 34 steel, which is another thing that attracted me to it. This is supposed to be almost exactly like CPM 154. I've never had an RWL 34 knife before, though, so I thought I'd give that a shot. Some people were very upset about that because I guess the Valkyrie, which is somewhat similar to this and gone now, was M390. Yeah, I mean, I guess I can kind of get that. It is a bit of a downgrade, but again, it's $280 for a Reate. It's not cheap, I'm not saying that, but for a Reate, that's fairly inexpensive. And I've had really good luck with CPM 154. Some of my favorite knives are CPM 154. So I wasn't too upset about that. CPM 154 holds an edge really well. It's fairly easy to work with. Very rust resistant, so I don't really mind that it's RWL 34. Not everything has to be M390. I got plenty of M390 knives. The steel doesn't make the blade. I mean, it does, but you know what I mean. Technically it does, but you know what I mean. As long as it's a really good steel, I don't really freak out about it too much. I think it's a pretty good blade. It's got some nice jimping. You can, you know, choke up on it like that. That's good. I think it's a very good blade. This is obviously not meant to be a full-on EDC knife. Some people will EDC it. I have carried it outside my house. I have, you know, left and sometimes just put it in my pocket, more than I would have expected to, honestly. But, you know, it's not really a true EDC blade, and it is kind of big, but the shape of it is fairly useful. I'm rambling a bit. Let's move on to the ergonomics. That's the thing that attracted me to this when I first put it in my hand, the first time I flicked it open. This is an exceedingly comfortable knife in your hand. It really, really is. And this blade is beefy enough to do some hardcore work if you want to, or you work in a place where you can do some heavy-duty work with a kind of, you know, stylized knife like this. This is a good one to choose. Good blade steel, good blade, and super comfortable. This is definitely an all-day in-your-hand kind of handle shape. The way it arcs down here fits my hands perfectly. Again, large-size hands with skinny fingers, and it fits really well. The jimping is just in the right spot. If you want to move farther forward, this little cutout works great. No hot spots whatsoever. Ergonomics on this are just outstanding. Now, in the carry, it carries better than I thought, with one exception. I thought it was just going to be a monster in my pocket, and it's not small in your pocket by any means. You're looking at a height of about, oh, what are we looking at? Yeah, almost 1.5 inches high. And that's, but my hand slides by it pretty good. Once it's in the pocket, it isn't bad. You do have that bit of jimping up here, but it's not aggressive where it's going to hurt your fingers or anything. And the pocket clip is so angled that it actually carries much smaller than its 6.5 ounces and nearly 4-inch blade would indicate. But this pocket clip was really, really hard to get in and out of anything short of, I have some camp pants that are very thin. It slid in and out of there fine. But any jeans, anything like that, it took 2 hands to get it in there. I admit, I bent the clip a little bit. Just a tuck, or just a touch. As you can see, it's not quite touching there. I had to make it really usable, because I like this enough that I really wanted to carry it. So I did bend the clip just a tiny bit. So I love the way the pocket clip is angled, but there's just not enough ramp on there to really get into much of anything. So beautiful pocket clip. I love the way it's angled, but it needs more ramp to really be useful to slide in and out of your pocket. If you're going to leave it as a showpiece, which some people probably will, that's fine. But if you really want to use this, I just tweaked the pocket clip up just a little bit so that I could actually get it in and out of my pocket, because I like it enough to actually do that. Now, deployment, out of the box, it was good. Wes hadn't had it long. He hadn't flipped it much. It was still pretty much brand new. It was good, but as I do, I never have torn a Reate apart before, so first thing I did is I tore it apart. It does have some very nice milling inside, by the way. When I tore it apart, I saw that. That's very nice inside. Looks very pretty on the inside, too. It has dual row ceramic bearings, and when I tore it apart, they were dry, which is a thing you get all the time now. I don't know what is going on with that. A lot of high-end Wii's I've gotten lately, Spydercos I've gotten lately, they just come dry. I don't know if oil prices have gotten that bad or whatever, but there was no oil on it whatsoever, so I did my usual, put Nano 85 on it because they're tiny little bearings, and the 85 seems to work really well with bearings. But after I did that, now the action is like this. It is total drop shut, smooth as could be. Don't know why Reate didn't just do that from the factory, but yeah, all I did was didn't adjust anything, just tore it apart, oiled it up. That's it. Tighten the pivot back down. And the pivot is almost as tight as it'll get, and it's still just like that. And the detent, very, very good. I did not adjust that. The detent is perfect. It's just it rockets out, and this blade is so heavy. Once it gets moving, it gets moving. All day long, it'll do that. And as you can see, I'll show you the detent. It's almost hard to show the detent because once this thing gets moving, but yeah, it still has pretty good detent there. Yeah, the detent's great. Makes a very solid bang when you open it. That's always very nice. Very solid bang. And another thing to show you too, the balance on it is great. For a knife this big, I think the balance on this knife is just outstanding. So yeah, in conclusion, despite the crazy ass looks, which aren't really that crazy, honestly, let's be fair. Crazy to me, there's stuff that's a lot crazier. Despite the fairly crazy looks and a lot of elements that I don't normally like in a knife, really, really like this. Very happy with the trade I got for it. It's a keeper. If I have to have one big ass crazy knife in my collection, this is a good one. It's a Reate, and I can say with utmost confidence that it will beget other Reates because I've already ordered another one. I've become an instant fan of the company, and it says something that this knife that has a whole bunch of stuff I don't like has made me an instant fan of the company. So keep that in your mind. Very, very cool. Very glad I have it. 280 bucks, again, not a bad value for a Reate at all, and especially if you're paying by the inch, it's a pretty good value. So hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Check out the Reate Valhalla if you haven't yet. I enjoy it. I think you will too. And have a good one.